Like it does make you question a lot of things, bro. If they were lying about the lab leak, why are they not gonna lie about the efficacy of the vaccines?
Or all the lockdown, the mask, all this shit. You know, the death toll. I mean, you have to question all that shit.
So what you think about now? It's becoming clear that the COVID virus actually came from a lab.
I mean, it's something that we've known for a long ass time. You know, they're just confirming it. It's like the Durham report. Like this shit's been out. If you've been paying attention, like there's been a lot of strong evidence to show that this shit came from the Wuhan Lab. You know, that they were studying the different types of coronaviruses funded by the U.S. government. You know, I mean, it's something that we've been knowing for a long ass time, but it's good to finally, it come out that it's legit, like more and more evidence just coming out,
Mm-hmm.
What you think about it?
Uh, well, I remember like when COVID started, they were saying that it came out from like the wet market. You kind of believe that story,
For
because
sure.
different cultures have different types of like habits of eating, and especially the type of animals they be eating. And it was like something new,
Mm-hmm.
basically a pandemic that it was something that we never had lived for.
Novel.
And it's crazy how like I remember when it started, you had this like scientist Judy, I forgot her last name, and she was the one of the first saying that it was actually lab leak, that this was actually a created
Right.
virus.
Like it showed that it was modified, like it
Hmm.
was fucked with by humans.
And I remember like
Yeah.
sending you a video on Instagram and being taken down, and then YouTube was also taking down any type of like discussion, bro.
Yeah.
And I remember even too, I was like, nah, like this can't be true. Like you're pushing it, like something like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think something like that could ever happen. And then 3 years later, especially now with the information that we know and that is public, it's kind of scary. It just makes you think like, what other type of scientific research the government is doing that we don't know about.
Right. I remember even hearing a story about a bio lab in Ukraine, right next to Russia, bro. What the fuck,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show that the U.S. has been funding all this gain of function research, which is what they call it, basically creating new viruses to try to like like as a preventive measure, creating them so we can find a cure to them before they even spread. But these are the consequences, fucking a worldwide pandemic that killed millions of people. I mean, it's crazy because this was one of the most like censored topics too, bro. Like you couldn't talk about this shit. And now that it's coming out that it's true, nothing's gonna happen to these tech companies
Yeah,
or the news, the media. Nothing's gonna happen to them
yeah,
for them censoring all this shit. And like they're not even gonna say that they're not gonna retract. They're not gonna retract nothing. They're not gonna apologize. They're just gonna go along with it. Like, oh yeah, this is the truth now,
yeah.
But back then, it was misinformation to them, you
Yeah.
know. YouTube, everybody.
Well, to that point that you're saying that, like, what they justify the research is they're trying to like make these viruses really infectious and hopefully find like um um like counter like fucking medicine to like get rid of those viruses.
Hmm.
But like I've heard other people argue that it's like something more nefarious than just trying to create this research for that kind of like benefit. You know what I'm saying?
Bioweapons and
But
shit.
like I don't know, maybe there's people that actually benefit and actually they have an incentive to create these type of viruses so they can come up with the cure, and they benefit from the research.
Yeah.
So like I know from what I read, I know that Dr. Fauci has like some like research invested in this type of like
Well, approve the funding for it. The
But
NIH.
but you see, like somebody like Fauci, he's a pretty like unique bureaucrat because he's been in power. He's been in his position for what, more than 50 years.
Right.
So imagine somebody that has been in that position. Imagine like he knows all the ways of how he can like use his position to benefit himself.
Right. He knew about this shit, bro. And he let all the misinformation come out. He went along with the first narrative, kept on pushing it. But I mean, I'm sure he knew beforehand that this shit came from there. I mean, there's so much evidence that shows that it did.
You know what's crazy though? That not a lot of people know about this. You know,
Mhm.
not a lot of people know that this was actually that it came from a lab. You know,
Right.
a lot of
Everybody still
people
thinks
that it
the
came from
person
like
did.
a wet market. It came from like fucking an animal, from an animal to a human, and you're not listening that you don't listen to the mainstream media correcting themselves. You know how they were every day talking about numbers, how many people are getting affected, how many people are dying, and like 3 years later, they're not even talking about this. You know,
Mhm.
just imagine if you invest all that energy trying to like actually tell the people the truth, people will be a little bit more informed, um, and like people will be like, have questions and everything, bro. Like imagine if this comes from a lab, what makes you think that the cure, which was a vaccine, is gonna help out? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, why would you think that the creation of the vaccines and like the research that went in there, like, is legit when like they were all trying to cover this type of research too?
Yeah.
So like it just kind of makes you question like a lot of things. It's not even that you're an anti-vaxxer, but like when you really like pay attention to the story, like it does make you question a lot of things, bro. If they were lying about the lab leak, why are they not gonna lie about the efficacy of vaccines?
Or all the lockdown, the mask, all this shit. The death toll. I mean, you have to question all that shit because if they're not telling us the basic facts about where it came from, then you got to question all this shit, bro. And it's a cover up from China and the U.S. Both of them, because they're both involved. They're both implicated. That's why you never had the U.S. blaming China, even though Trump was saying calling it the China virus,
Mm-hmm. It
but
was
not
very
for
wrong.
not for not. It wasn't for that reason though. Just because it came from China. But that's why China never blamed the U.S. Because imagine if the U.S. was doing it in the U.S. and China knew, they would have said some shit. But since it was U.S. funded, but in China, you have both superpowers that control all the information in the world, basically saying that it came from a fucking wet market. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's just crazy, bro.
yeah. I mean, like it's crazy how we kind of export this type of research to other countries because I'm pretty sure the backlash of doing this type of research in the United States will be so big. So like, same like the point that you brought about
All the
Ukraine.
regulations are probably
You
here
know,
something.
why are we fucking?
Yeah, why are we doing it in other countries and
Yeah,
not here?
exactly.
Because yeah, the different laws, the jurisdiction, we don't have to claim responsibility for it. If it leaks over there, not over here. I mean, yeah, it's true, bro. But even then, I'm sure they have like secret ones.